Guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel. So in today's tutorial, I'm actually going to be doing a video that I've realized that I've never actually done on my channel before. And it's pretty crazy that I haven't done this because I feel like it's a problem that I come across a lot and a lot of people do come across a lot when they're starting out with beauty photography or even setting up a home studio. And that is trying to get rid of crinkled backdrops. Now, if you've ever tried to get rid of these before, they can be very stubborn with a lot of different techniques. And I wanted to show you guys a really easy way to do this that can also really help out with perfecting the hair as well, because that's another issue that a lot of people do find with beauty photography in particular. Because the photos are so close up, the hair is very prominent and a lot of the hairs can look a little bit messy, in particular in this area in the photo here. And I wanted to show you guys a way of kind of simultaneously getting rid of those wrinkled backdrop creases and also getting rid of those stray hairs at the same time. So we're going to jump straight into the tutorial and I hope you guys enjoy. Okay guys, so the first thing we're going to do is duplicate the background layer here. So I'm going to move this layer into the new layer button down the bottom here, and then we've got our duplicate. Now the first thing we want to do is get rid of this portrait. We're actually going to start off with a clean slate. That's what we really need to bring the backdrop back in the way that we're going to do this technique. So the first thing we need to do here is go up to the lasso tool, just up the top here. And I usually have the feathering set to 0 pixels. And then what I'm going to do is trace an outline around the portrait. I usually leave, and you can see that I'm leaving a bit of a gap there as well. And this is actually because we want all of the hair to be captured. So all those little strays. There we go. So once we've made a selection around the portrait, I'm then going to go to Edit and then Fill. We're going to make sure Content Aware is selected in the drop-down menu here. And we're going to leave Color Adaptation checked and Opacity at 100%. And then we're going to click OK. And it's probably going to take a few minutes to do what it needs to do here. Okay, so we effectively have a clean slate now. So if I just deselect that by clicking on the image, you can see that that's gotten rid of the portrait. But now we're going to have a second step here and we're going to blur all of this together. So going up to Filter, we'll go down to Blur and then Gaussian Blur. And I tend to have this at a quite high level. Now you're going to really have to do this so all of the wrinkles have disappeared and all of those edgings have disappeared. So I usually go quite high for this. And I'm just going to leave it at 654 for now and press OK. Okay, so now we actually have a real clean slate here. We don't have any wrinkles in the backdrop. This is essentially going to be our backdrop layer. Now, we need to obviously get our portrait back. So I've found a really easy way to do this is by masking it back in. So the way I'm going to do this is just by clicking on Layer Mask down here, making sure that the background copy layer is still selected. So now we have our layer mask. And this time I'm going to go over to the paintbrush tool just over on the left-hand side, making sure that the brush is quite large and the hardness is at 0%. We want this to be a very soft brush. So I'm actually going to make this brush even bigger. Just make it a bit bigger here. I'm going to make sure that the opacity and flow is both at 100%. And then I'm going to go to the opacity over here for the background copy layer, and I'm going to actually move this down to around 50%. And this is purely just to see what I'm doing a little bit easier because we're actually going to bring back the portrait now from the background layer. So in doing this, we're going to be using the layer mask, which we've selected. And I'm going to be checking the boxes here just to make sure that black is the color that we've selected, because black is actually going to let the background layer show through here with the mask. So now that I can see the portrait in the background, I'm actually going to just start painting on the background copy layer mask. And this doesn't have to be perfect because we're going to fix a couple of things in a second. So I'm just going to do this quite roughly, making sure that we're getting everything selected, just going over these bits of hair. Okay. And now I'm going to go back to the opacity over here and we'll move that straight up to 100%. So you guys can see that we've got the background there now, but things aren't 100% perfect with how we've brought back the portrait. So keeping our layer mask here selected for the background copy layer, I'm now going to start detailing parts of the image. I'll make my brush a bit smaller and we'll start going over the edges of the parts that haven't quite been brought back yet. Okay. As I said, this can be done quite roughly because we're going to go in and detail it a little bit more, especially when it comes to the hair. Okay. So I think pretty much everything has been brought back there. Now we're going to switch the coloring over here. We're just going to click on the arrows and we'll get white selected as the main color. We're going to zoom in, and with our smaller paintbrush this time, making it even a little bit smaller again, we're going to just start detailing in some of these areas here around the hair, keeping the brush soft. But this is the step where we can actually get rid of some of these strays as well. So we're going to go over some of these stray hairs as I'm detailing the edges of the portrait. This might take a little while just to sort of perfect things. The way I like doing it this way is because we are getting that opportunity to get rid of some of those stray hairs. And as we all know, for beauty portraits in particular, stray hairs can be an absolute nightmare. And if you do make any mistakes, you can just switch the color over to black again and then just go over it once more, but from the inside. Okay, so we're just going to be quite careful here with how we go over some of these hairs, because stray hairs like this can be really difficult to get rid of with it still looking natural. So I'm just going to fade some of this out by selecting black again, making my brush a bit larger so it's quite soft, and then just tapping it over some of these areas. We'll go back to white and then keep removing some of these strays. Okay, so zooming out again, we can actually check the progress of the mask as well by holding down Alt and clicking on the mask itself. So you can see any little gaps here that we have missed, and we'll just select white as the coloring and make sure that all of those areas are properly brought back. And then holding down Alt on the keyboard and clicking the mask again, we can see that that's all been brought back to a relatively good standard. I'm going to show you the before and after. So this is the before image, and this is the after image. So I hope you guys have really enjoyed this tutorial, and hopefully you've learnt something new today. I find that this is a really good technique for getting rid of crinkled backdrop, creases and things like that. I think it's really handy when you're starting out with photography and studio photography in particular to be able to use fabric backdrops and pieces of fabric for backdrops, because a lot of the time that can be a lot cheaper than going out and purchasing paper backdrops, and this is just a really easy way to get rid of them in post-processing and make it not such a big deal when it comes time to actually editing the creases out. So I hope you guys have really enjoyed this video, and if you did, please give it a thumbs up, and if you haven't subscribed to this channel already, make sure you do, because I'll be posting a lot more videos like this in future. And thank you guys so much for watching. I will see you in the next video. Bye!